Sometimes you need a distraction.
Hello, boys. I've always wanted to play to a Captain Williams.
Anticipation! Look, elephant!
You guys have to create a diversion. What do you want me to do? Dress and drag and do the hula? Wow!
In the world of the Transformers, the Autobots can rely on distracting the Decepticons with their diversionary tactician, Smokescreen.
Now, let them know you are there! Hey, here I am, you scrap metal meatball!
I'd like to thank my patrons and my channel members for your continued support. Consider becoming one, or purchase some merch on my spring store today. Originally released in the Diaclone toy line, the Fair Lady Z figures transformed into replicas of the Datsun 280 ZX Turbo. The police version and civilian model were imported into the Transformers toy line in 1984 as Prowl and Blue Streak respectively. However, a third version of the toy was based on the real-life racing car driven by Don Devendorf. Hasbro imported this figure into the Transformers toy line in 1985 as the Autobot Smokescreen. In his bio, as written by Bob Budiansky, Smokescreen is the Autobot's devious yet most trustworthy diversionary tactician. Sneaky, but charming and affable, Smokescreen usually has an ulterior purpose to what he's up to. In car mode, he can emit a thick black smoke that gravitates towards metallic objects, and in robot mode, he can fire on enemy Decepticons with his radar-disrupting ECM missiles and his electro-disruptor rifle. First appearing in the two-part Season 2 episode Dinobot Island, Smokescreen was among the many characters introduced without explanation into the Autobot ranks. The details for that I've covered previously. Voiced by Jack Angel, Smokescreen cared a lot for his fellow Autobots in the fight against the Decepticons.
Prime, can you hear me? I'll be okay.
As an expert in diversions, Smokescreen even distracted Devastator, who guarded a giant solar tower.
Smokescreen, burn rubber!
Like his name implies, Smokescreen made frequent use of his magnetic smoke that he emitted in car mode, blinding the Decepticons long enough for the Autobots to either fight back or escape.
Autobots, retreat!
It also gave him ample time to fire on his enemies to disrupt their electrical guidance systems.
Hey, my circuit's electric blew just out! To mine! I'm blind flying!
Away, move before colliding!
In the episode Child's Play, Smokescreen was one of the Autobots and Decepticons accidentally sent via a space bridge to a planet full of giant aliens. While the Autobots managed to reconfigure Aaron's toy spaceship to fly back home, it ran out of power in what would be Smokescreen's spotlight episode, The Gambler. Picked up by a gambling entrepreneur named Bosch, the Autobots were to be sold into slavery.
What do you intend to do with us? Why, sell you, of course. How else will I get the energon I need to power this ship?
But Smokescreen showed off his gambling abilities.
It's all in the wrist.
To gather the energon they both sorely needed, Smokescreen and Bosch traveled to the gambling planet Monicus. Putting up the Autobots as collateral with interest to Lord Geikenny, Smokescreen nearly won it big before his recklessness cost him everything.
I'm betting it all.
To save his Autobot companions, he teamed up with the Autobot bounty hunter Devcon as they battled the Decepticons. Although the Decepticons fled, the Autobots took some much-needed R&R before heading back home.
Hey, what do you say to a little R&R, guys?
Why not? Autobots, transform!
Despite being skilled in distracting Decepticons, Smokescreen stood little chance when battling against the Stunticons, as even he was taken out of the race in the episode Trans-Europe Express.
Smokescreen! He really wrecked himself up! Got to get him repaired somehow!
In Transformers the movie, Smokescreen was originally storyboarded to be among the Autobots killed during the Battle of Autobot City. However, during production, the decision was made to swap Smokescreen for Wheeljack, which explains why in the previous shot that Wheeljack was even miscolored as Smokescreen himself. As such, despite not appearing during Season 3, Smokescreen made a small appearance among his fellow Autobots in the Japanese exclusive series, The Headmasters. In the Marvel Comics, 5 Autobots agreed to have their personalities and memories stored onto crystals that were stored on the Ark before the Autobots came to Earth. When Optimus Prime needed more warriors, new bodies were constructed by the Ark for Smokescreen, Skids, Trax, Hoist, and Grapple, who were activated by Wheeljack using the crystals. While he did prove his firepower against the Decepticons, Smokescreen's adventures in the US run were all but brief. This allowed him to appear in quite a few UK exclusive stories, which included taking down Devastator at a demolition derby and facing off against a time-traveling Galvatron. In an alternate future timeline, Smokescreen and Inferno escorted Wreck-Gar back to the planet Junkion. Unfortunately, the planet was taken over by Unicron. Inferno and Smokescreen had hoped to report back to Rodimus Prime when their ship was attacked by Cyclonus and Scourge. To save his friend, an injured Inferno threw Smokescreen through their ship's windshield before crashing into a large squad of Decepticons. Lamenting about his friend, Smokescreen then helped Rodimus Prime and his fellow Autobots destroy Unicron's head once and for all. After G1 ended, Smokescreen became one of the many characters who would have his name slapped onto completely different characters to keep up the name trademark. The first new incarnation was in Generation 2 as a Decepticon jet that would combine with his partner, Dreadwing. However, the G2 comic decided to repurpose the duo as upgraded versions of the Decepticon Power Masters, Dreadwind and Darkwing. As such, G1 Smokescreen appeared briefly before being killed off by the Decepticons. This was not the case in Japanese G2 story pages, however, as G2 Smokescreen manipulated the pacifist Dreadwing into joining the Decepticons. Further toys of the duo were released years later as exclusives to the Tokyo Toy Show in 2010. More on that story later. Another incarnation came in Transformers Armada. Transforming into a crane truck, this toy came packaged with his Minicon partner, Liftor. Unfortunately, the name Grapple was unavailable at the time, and Hasbro needed to name it something, so they settled on Smokescreen. In Japan, however, he's appropriately named Grap. In the cartoon, Smokescreen eagerly followed Optimus Prime through a warp gate to Earth to chase after the Minicons. Unfortunately, Smokescreen ended up in a tunnel underground before joining back up with his fellow Autobots. Voiced by Dale Wilson, Smokescreen was a tough but kind-hearted Autobot who never believed in giving up. Using his crane hook to his advantage, Smokescreen eventually got his own Minicon partner as well.
Meet my new partner here. I call him Liftor.
Soon enough, he became the guardian of the Skyboom shield, which he would deploy to his fellow Autobots in battle. Unfortunately, a Decepticon attack on the Autobots' base ended when Megatron acquired the Requiem Blaster, using it point blank on poor Smokescreen. To save him, Red Alert rebuilt Smokescreen into a new body, now transforming into an excavator with a new name, Hoist. The details for him will be a discussion for another day.
Hoist, how does your new name fit your new reformatting?
It fits just fine, Commander.
Toy designer Aaron Archer has openly admitted that the name Smokescreen was wrong for the character, so a better homage to the classic G1 bot came in the form of a repaint of the Minicon Prowl, though a redeco of Armada Hotshot in Transformers Universe was ultimately cancelled. In Transformers Cybertron, the name Smokescreen was going to be used for another character, this time a valiant Autobot monster hunter that transformed into a Bugatti Veyron. However, he instead went by the name Crosswise. When the show was first broadcast, early dubs even called him Smokescreen before being redubbed with his proper name.
Here comes Smokescreen, the monster hunter. I've been doing this since the beginning of time. Here comes Crosswise, the monster hunter. I've been doing this since the beginning of time.
Eventually, Crosswise was redecoed into an actual version of Cybertron Smokescreen in his familiar color scheme. His bio described him as a practical joker that used his trickery against the Decepticons. While he did not appear in the live-action films, Smokescreen was part of the movie's various toy lines as a G1-inspired redeco of Jazz. With a similar personality to his G1 counterpart, Smokescreen also appeared in the tie-in movie comics, where he was subsequently killed off by the Decepticons prior to the events of Dark of the Moon. Before Transformers Prime's second season airing, an image of Prowl had fans speculating that the character was to be added to the show. Instead, the character model was modified and used to create a new version of Smokescreen. As it turned out, according to the director's commentary, Smokescreen was planned to be in the initial lineup of Autobots and was to be killed off at the end of the first season. However, during production, this was changed to Cliffjumper, and in addition to not wanting to pay top dollar for The Rock, his death was moved to the first episode of the show, leading to many fans believing that he dies all the time. Once again taking a different approach to the character, Smokescreen made his debut late in the show's second season, taking on a personality similar to Hot Rod as an Autobot rookie overeager for action who was voiced by Nolan North.
Being here with Optimus Prime, I knew I was destined for great things. I mean, now that you have help, how hard could it be to end this war?
Beginning his Autobot career as Alpha Trion's bodyguard back on Cybertron, he eventually teamed up with Optimus Prime on Earth, jumping headfirst into action against the Decepticons,
Assist! What's the new guys for?
and frequently made use of the Cybertronian relic known as the Phase Shifter.
Yes! Signature weapon!
His desire to be a hero constantly put him at odds with his teammates, especially when it came to protecting human life.
We've been in need of another Autobot in our ranks, not another child.
It also led to his capture by the Decepticons, who found out that Alpha Trion had hidden an Omega key within the rookie's body. After he escaped, the Decepticons destroyed the Autobots' base, and Smokescreen pulled Optimus Prime from the wreckage. Thinking he was going to die, Optimus almost passed the matrix of leadership to Smokescreen, once again like Hot Rod.
Arise, Rodimus Prime. Optimus.
I mean, sure, who wouldn't want to be a Prime? But I'm really not ready for that kind of responsibility.
But this time the Autobot rookie used the Forge of Solus Prime to save Prime's life, rebuilding him into a form similar to God Jinrai. Smokescreen then took on a new blue and yellow color scheme as he tried his best to act less like a rookie for the remainder of the series.
You're one patient guy. I should take a cue.
Despite all of these various versions of Smokescreen, the G1 character was certainly not forgotten over the years. He even fought against his Armada counterpart in the BotCon exclusive Transformers comic. In the Dreamwave comics, Smokescreen was part of an underground resistance unit on Cybertron that was organized to liberate the planet from Shockwave's tyranny. In the IDW comics, Smokescreen joined up with Optimus Prime on Earth to keep the Decepticons from causing any international incidents, and he eventually joined the Lost Light crew. Ignoring the events of the UK and G2 comics, Smokescreen helped Optimus Prime put an end to Megatron's conquest of Earth in the Regeneration 1 comics. The first new figure of G1 Smokescreen came in 2003's Transformers Alternators toy line, which saw highly articulated Transformers with alt modes of fully licensed cars. As the first in the line, Smokescreen transformed into a rally-stylized Subaru Impreza. In Japan, where this toy line was known as Vinyltech, Smokescreen was one of many Autobots who made use of Wheeljack's experimental technology to take control of multiple bodies. While this story took place on a Splinter timeline, the Takara Legends manga explained that this technology actually caused Smokescreen's personality to split into several competing minds. The evil one became the dominant one, and Smokescreen joined the Decepticons alongside Dreadwing and adopted the G2 jet body. Eventually, after the Autobot and Decepticon alliance, Smokescreen was restored as he and Dreadwing defended humans from the threat of the Quintessons. Over the years, whenever a Prowl or Blue Streak figure was released, a redeco or retool of Smokescreen was sure to follow. This included the Masterpiece treatment in 2013, and even a Cybertronian mode for the War for Cybertron Trilogy's Siege toy line as a Generation Selects exclusive. This version of Smokescreen appeared in IDW's reboot, once again a diversionary tactician, smooth-talking his way to get weapons as he rescued Ultra Magnus using smoke to cover their exit. Although he did not appear in the War for Cybertron Trilogy's animated series on Netflix, Smokescreen's latest figure was a return to his classic G1 counterpart in the Earthrise toy line in 2020. Perhaps his charming way of talking and abilities to distract the Decepticons can be seen in more Transformers media in the years to come.
Just call him the Autobot who isn't there.
But what do you think? Does Smokescreen deserve another shot in the spotlight? And what is your favorite version of the character? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you like this video, be sure to thumbs up and subscribe. I have many more Transformers videos like this coming soon, so stay tuned. And as always, until next time, till all are one.
Batter up! I got